So let's start by welcoming you onto Design Dekko for this conversation. And I'm really thankful that you spared time for this. Smitha, I'll start with a question. Often, after many years, when you are into the industry, people don't look back and see how the journey was. Often the, approach is to look forward. But I always start my interview asking, how did your journey begin with interior designer? Because for you specifically, you hold a specialization in tapestry design. So what inspired you to move to interior design?
Okay, so yes, you're right. I do have hold a specialization in tapestry design. I did my actually my education in fashion, and then went into textile design and majored in tapestry.
Mhm.
Thinking back, I've always had a love for textiles, and maybe it's just my background from being in India, having such a variety of fabrics always around you. So, I decided, okay, instead of just going with something regular, let me specialize in something that is a little different. And tapestry, I like carpets because carpets always have some story to tell. It's from some specific region. So it's always so interesting, right? And the other thing I think in terms of looking back, when I was a young girl, actually, I was constantly doing up my room, and not really realizing it. It was always like I would try to change my curtains, or I'd try to change my bedspread, or I'd have a new rug, or small things that you always kind of change up. But it was something that came to me naturally, and I would get tired of things quickly also. So every year I would just refresh a little bit with my pocket money and do whatever little bit that I could. But it never came to me as, oh, maybe I would be good at interiors or something. Because also back in the day, at that time, people, I'm talking about in the 80s and 90s, people didn't really in India hire interior designers or anything like that, right? It was just something that we never did. So yeah, I mean, I think that was how my journey kind of started. Now when you're asking me the question, yes, it makes me reflect. And yeah, I think interiors was really by sort of default, because I did up my home, and then a friend of mine said, would you consider just helping me with my space? And I really enjoyed doing that. And I think one thing led to another thing, and here I am, and I'm so grateful for the fact that I, love doing what I do. And I think I would encourage everybody to really find their passion and do what they want to do, because that's the only thing that gives you joy every day.
And your style is India modern, as you mention it. So could you explain the nuances of it more for the audience to understand it better?
Yeah, sure. So I think, India in itself, right, is such a melting pot of cultures. I know it's a very cliche line, but it truly is a melting point, a pot of cultures, whether it's the north, the south, the east, the west, everything is different, whether it's the architecture, the food, the language, the fabrics, everything is different. And there is really so much in India that we have. And then I always use this term of, when we talk about India moderns, steeped in the past, but very in sync with the now. So I like to, take things from our culture, use it interestingly, which is current to our living today. Whether it be, again, I come back because I like to work with color and fabrics. I come back to textiles, or in any craft, whether it's inlay, bidri. There are so many things we have access to in India. So I always find it interesting to take craft and use it in a more modern context where it is relevant to today. And that is something that I think that is my idea of an India modern home, where we use local, we use it interestingly, we use it differently, and it makes us happy when we look at it. And I also, the other thing I feel is that we are now not looking so much towards the West for an affirmation anymore. We are the trendsetters, right? We are now very much more confident of our design language. People come to India to look for inspiration, but we are here, we're sitting here, and why not you use it in the right way? So that is my idea of India modern. I think let's be proud, let's embrace our culture, and let's live with it, because that's what we've grown up with, and that's what makes us feel at home.
True, true. You mentioned a very interesting point where, you said earlier it was not very common to see people hiring an interior designer to do their home. But in the last, I think, 5 to 7 years or something, the concept of co-creation, where the involvement of the person who is owning the house, whether it's from whether it's the male from the family or the women from the family, who give a lot of inputs to the interior designers when they are doing up homes, that has come up. So we generally call it the co-creation concept, where people do give a lot of ideas to this. What's your perspective about co-creation, and how different has it become over the years? You have seen people change over time.
Well, again, I say, today everybody is well traveled. Yeah. And I think most people are self-closeted interior designers. So I always say that because I design for homes specifically, we design for the persona who lives in the space. So that is something that is very important to us. It's very personal. My interaction with my clients is very critical, because finally they are going to live in the space. My job is to make it beautiful for them, give it good function, advise them correctly. And a lot of them have their own, they have their own ideas about things. So I'm either kind of trying to tell them why it will work or why it won't work, and reason with them. A lot of them who come to me have a sense of style. So that's also interesting to work with, because I don't think I want to work like a dictator. I want to, I like my clients to be involved up to a certain point, because like I said, it is their home. We are bringing their personalities into their home. So it is important for me to listen to them. And it is important for me to advise them and to give them a beautiful home. That's, it's like putting a puzzle together. So that is, I think it's not only about what I want or what I see. It is about bringing it together for your client in, and bringing your take on it interestingly.
Okay, just to add a point there, Indians are known as people who hoard a lot of stuff. So when you're designing a home, sometimes it becomes a challenge to convince your client that, hey, you need this amount of space. That's what you can get. Beyond that, it's going to be difficult. So how different has that conversation gone on? Because now I see a lot of people focusing on minimalism and all of those aspects.
Yeah, so I think that is an interesting point, and you're right, because in India we love to hoard. That's our thing, right? So I don't really think minimalistic homes really eventually work out for Indians. I think when you talk about minimalistic homes, you're talking about beautiful landscapes outside your window where you have no curtains. You can live with that one sofa. That's a very Western concept, So I think, like, I would do my India modern take on minimalism. So, in terms of, I think when people are moving into a new home, you constantly need to talk to them. They are already nervous. They've, hired you to do the most personal part of their space. There's a lot of conversation. You can, like, when I do a bedroom, it's sort of color themed, it's furniture themed, the paintings, the carpets, everything. So how many sheets do you need in a bedroom? How many towels do you need in a bedroom? You need 2 to 3 sets maximum. You don't need a linen cupboard that has that. So you start to talk to them, and you start to give them your perspective. And I always say, I always tell my clients, hire me because you think I am the best person for the job. Don't hire me if you don't believe that, because then you need to listen to me and I need to listen to you. So it's a two-way thing, and you have to believe that I am the best person for you to take the advice correctly.
Yeah. Which also brings me to the question. You focus on India modern. So how important is Indianness of design to our homes when you design a certain space? Because people do look at many of those Pinterest posts and say, hey, I need my kitchen to look like that. But for an Indian environment, sometimes it's not relevant.
It's not practical. Yeah. So I mean, I would like, so when I say Indianness, I say Indianness is important. I say embrace it, right? You are from here, don't shy away from it. When I think that, like even in a modular kitchen, You can have one space in there just integrated with a nice antique cupboard. Maybe it's something that's personal. Maybe it's a family heirloom. Maybe, so, you can bring touches with just handles. You can bring touches with just that antique piece. It doesn't have to be like screaming in your face all the time. It's just that touch that reminds you.
Yeah.
And we're giving craftspeople a chance. We are using things that is within our range of, sourcing. We are helping a lot of people. So I think that is important to think about. And minimalism, yes. I mean, I know, like, even, I get people who come to me and say, I want a modern home, I want a eclectic home, I want whatever. But we do know how to, there is a rhythm to it, there is a process to it, and there is a certain way we address the design, and we take those themes very seriously. So the first question I ask my client, can you live in a minimalistic way? And once we have had that conversation, it gives them something to think about when they are thinking about their design as well. So we're constantly talking, we're constantly challenging, we're constantly asking the right questions, because sometimes they haven't thought of the answers, and it is our job to question them, to make them think of, why did I choose this style? Or is it really me? Or then they may say, actually, Smitha, maybe you're right, maybe I'm more eclectic than modern. So we have had situations like that.
So, the definition of space itself has undergone a change a lot. We recently did a study called India's New Sense of Place, where we realized most of the TV viewing or binge watching, etc., is not happening in the living room. Perhaps it's happening in your bedroom. And even the workplace has shifted rooms from a living room to a bedroom. So there is a mix of how space was being defined. It's changing. And with this, what we also see is, rather than doing the whole home at one go, because now people are working from home and also the financial crunch that is there, people are doing up smaller spaces at home.
Yes.
So
yes.
What's your comment on, the change of sense of place?
Okay, so I'm going to address this as two separate points. One is, yes, everybody is kind of sitting at home. Everybody is wanting nicer spaces. Everybody is, kind of looking at smaller details in their homes and saying, oh, actually, why don't I have this? So last year during the lockdown, I decided to come up with an online portal, which is what we call ZXP Create. And here you can interact with us, and we design even one room in your house at a time. So it is kind of like a DIY model. I know Indians are not really DIY people, but soon, because of the pandemic, because you don't want too much interaction time. And, sometimes, like I said, most people are self-closeted interior designers, so they just want like you might be a good cook, but you want that outline of that recipe to just say, okay, this is what it is. So we have this, it's a completely online process. You fill in a questionnaire. It's a very detailed questionnaire. We get to know you, and then the questionnaire goes to a social psychologist who analyzes your personality. And then you can choose the look that you like, and then tell us the room that you want designed. And then we get onto Zoom calls with you. We get measurements from you. We either have video calls, you can send us videos of your room. And then we have this whole process. And at the end of it, through interaction through Zoom, we send you a box with all the details of your design. And it's a beautifully packaged box, and it's like a full recipe for your room, right from, it's a bedroom, right to your bed linen, to your curtains, to swatches, to electrical drawing, cupboards, everything. So if you follow it to the T, you will have a design that works for you, for your persona, and for your space. So this is something that we came up with last year, and we've had a lot of reviews from our clients that they have actually really enjoyed working with us, especially because they felt very involved in the process. And I think that's very, very important when you're designing a person's personal space. That involvement, you as a designer, you have to learn to work with it, and you need to be good at it, because I don't think you can shy away from it. You need to make the client feel inclusive.
It's a great idea. In fact, I always used to think, there was an old Asian Paints ad in which they used to say "Mera wala green." That used to be the concept or the issue that I faced with most of the design conversations. I could not express the kind of homes that I want, and how will
Hmm.
it end up looking? I would only know at the end of it, and then the whole
Yeah.
process of renegotiating and reworking
Yeah.
design happens.
Yeah.
That has come down to a large extent using AI, VR tools, and also the kind of ideas that you're
Yes.
presenting. Uh,
Yeah.
does it have its own challenges also? Uh, does it feel that the face-to-face interaction that used to happen, where you could pick up the nuances, that's getting missed somewhere? Or do you think so?
No, 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 because actually, it has worked out very well in terms of one, in terms of time, in terms of price point. It's much less than hiring a regular interior designer. Three is, you get, once you have the details, you get to do it at your own pace, because we are recommending the vendors. So if you can't afford that chair that I've suggested today, you can buy it 1 month later. Whereas if you have an interior designer on board, you're looking at a time period and you're looking to complete it. And if you think that the chair that I have given you and you've seen something similar and it's at a lower price, you can always pick it up. Whereas if you work with me on bespoke, what I tell you to buy is what I tell you to buy.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of flexibility in this, and I think that the way we look at interiors is going to change, because I think it's going to start, the bespoke clients are going to be few and far between. There are going to be more people like this, where over the last 1 year, what has it taught us? It has taught us that we have to be self-sufficient, we have to be able to do things ourselves. There's not going to be too much more spoon feeding. There's going to be less interaction, more output.
Okay.
So I think from all aspects, I think our create model has been actually quite. It was something that we had never done, or it was just something that we kind of said, why not? Let's give it a shot, and
Okay.
it has worked out well. And the happiest thing that I think all our clients have said is we have felt very involved in the process, and that was something that was very important to us.
Absolutely. And my final question will be, people keep on talking about the new normal and what's going to happen in the future, etc. But the whole last 20, 24 months of the pandemic and the lockdowns and everything, people have started feeling or realizing that they need to give back to the people who are around us, the altruistic side of us, the financially prudent side of us. Small things, whether it's donating something or supporting somebody, etc. So, from that perspective, organizations have also done a lot. From your angle, the whole interior design, the furniture, and the construction, all of these segments had almost come to a standstill during this last couple of months, which was difficult. What were those things that we would now be prepared as an industry, or we should be prepared as an industry people to do in the future, so that whenever such a time, if it ever comes, God forbid, we will be prepared to support more people?
I think as a business, you need to look at, how much you can actually, grow your teams, look after your employees. These are things I think during the pandemic that really, if you are a good organization, regardless of what is happening around you for 6 weeks or 8 weeks, you need, as an organization, you need to do what you need to do, which means that if you need to pay your employees for that 1 month, that is important, because that, I think that commitment that you need from your team, because without a team you are nobody. You need to look after those labor that are at your sites. You need to figure out ways and means for them to stay. You need to put out food there. So I think, as in terms of charity, I would look at my organization first, my labor first, and see that they are okay, because I think that is a responsibility. And going forward, I don't think you should overstretch yourself too much, because there are, I mean, we never thought we'd have a second lockdown last year, right? So there could be, we never know, every couple of months perhaps there may be something like this, till things settle down over the next year or two or whatever it is, can't say. But in the meantime, I think it would be prudent to keep your overheads a certain way, so that you can manage your operations and fulfill your commitments.
Smita, with that, we come to the end of the whole interview. It was
Okay.
chatting with you.
Thank you so much for having me, and it was a pleasure chatting with you as well.
Thank you, Smita.